Hello, frequency friends. I am so excited to share today's episode with you. I am telling you what, some of you may know me as a museum curator and artist mentor, but my favorite way to introduce myself is that I am someone that likes to challenge the status quo because we need change. We need change right now. And art is one of the most powerful communication tools we have to make that change. Art can really help shift that perspective. And today's guest, we have a dynamic team. We have Jenny Pohlman and Sabrina Knowles, and they aren't just making sculptures. They are forging powerful narratives in glass and steel that confront the systemic erasure of women and the perilous loss of feminine wisdom. Now, this team, they channel spiritual beliefs, cultural histories, and hidden lives into stories of healing, resilience, and the unyielding power of the human spirit. Now, in this episode, Pullman and Knowles reveal their relentless quest to guard against forgetting of the feminine knowledge, a force that's been sidelined for way too long. They dive deep into topics of climate justice and arguing that the sacrifice of feminine qualities such as empathy, collaboration, creativity, and care is a catastrophic loss for the safety of life on Earth. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's dive into the episode. Hello, ladies. Jenny and Sabrina, I'm so happy that you've accepted our invitation and you're letting us into your studio. Thanks for taking us on your journey today.
Well, thank you very much, Jodie, for including us in your journey.
Oh, absolutely. I adore you two. And as I was thinking about your work, most recently, I found a quote and I wanted to read it to you because I think this is how I relate myself to your work. And I'm hoping it will give others a position to step into your work as well. It goes like this. It is from Lama Alone, and it starts out, the loss of feminine qualities is an urgent psychological and ecological issue in modern society. It is a painful loss in our emotional lives and a disastrous loss for the safety on Earth.
Wow. That's very profound, very articulate. And we have to say we agree wholeheartedly.
Awesome. Awesome. You two have always spoken about the wisdom of women in your work. And I'm going to take a moment and pull up an image of your work. Here we have IC series. And as we start talking, you have your sculpted metal and your glass. But I was hoping the two of you could just take us on your journey as you talk about the wisdom of women, particularly in this piece.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the origins of the form, and then we can talk about our philosophical content behind that. All of those lines and those eyes are steel cut from large-scale steel pipes, some as large as 24 inches in diameter. So the composition of the two eyes is about 36 inches across. The eyes revealed themselves to us on the metal table when we were working on another series involving the empowerment of women. And we were embellishing glass lenses with metal compositions. Very much our work entails a jewelry quality that is unintentional, but it seems that inevitably we finesse it to where people see an image and think it may be a brooch. It might be 6 feet by 4 feet, but it still is read as a brooch in the image. So the eye slowly revealed itself on the table when we were pushing these metal ribs around. It took about 15 or more iterations over the course of 2 years to minimize the line and create a singular eye. the intent was with all of our work is we go in wholeheartedly, and as we mature the design, we minimize to where only the minimal amount of lines exist to translate, communicate the emotion or feeling. So that's the origins of the metal, which would not have come into being unless we were doing imagery in glass. Your viewers may not be able to see, but in the lenses of those two eyes, and the pupils are a pair of soaring gannets, birds, which is our nod to the seers.
And this work then led to another series, which is called the Witness series. And that has to do with photography and us just recording what's going on around us. Say the fires, the smoke from the fires in Canada that affected Seattle. Maybe, was it 4 years ago the first time that happened? And then also our sunsets, our beautiful skies, our wonderful Olympic Peninsula, just recording what it is we live with today, and how it's changed just in our short lifetime. And as the series goes on, hopefully we'll record where it's going, what direction we're taking with the environment.
You know, the situation we find ourselves in is a little overwhelming. And as consumers, we try to be mindful of our footprint and be efficient with our use of materials. It's no secret that we work with glass, which is a very big energy consuming material. You can see with these pieces, glass is minimal, but without it, the work would not read. So in our designs, glass tends to lead the design. We try to, like I said, to minimize our footprint, we try to work as efficiently as possible. And we employ glass when we recognize that no other material really can yield the results. I believe you're going to talk about another of our works, The Wheel of Remembering and Forgetting.
Yes.
We love hot glass's propensity for curvature. We often see designs unfold when we're working in the hot shop. It would be almost impossible to get the grace of these compound curves in another material as efficiently and quickly as we can once we get our chops on in the hot shop.
Right. There's definitely some line economy happening. Like, you are so minimal yet graceful in this form, particularly, as well as the eyes, as well as I see.
Curvature seems to be a common denominator within our work.
More back to the wisdom of women and our great Mother Earth.
Curvature and fecundity, baby.
Let's bring it. Let's bring it.
So in order to discuss the composition that you see here, the Wheel of Remembering and Forgetting, which is almost 3 feet in diameter, Sabrina was going to take us on a journey of how we arrived at our bird form.
Let's do it.
Okay, well, for Jenny and I, the heron is a type of talisman. Whenever we have a significant encounter with a heron, it seems we have good luck. We have a good time.
They seem to appear at times of great change in our horizons.
And joy. So we were working on this form, our interpretation of what a heron would look like, in probably 99, and
with its long neck.
With the long neck going forward. And the heron, if you look at it carefully, well, not even that carefully, there's a compound curve in the neck of the birds. And that was kind of difficult for me to create in the hot shop. I like to let the glass kind of flow the way it wants to, because glass wants to be round and it's curvy and it's got all those elements in it. So we took a journey and we became aware of a bird looking back, which is common throughout indigenous peoples around the world. For instance, Native Americans often will show a raven or a crow looking back. Birds do this all the time. So anyway, we were greatly...
Our journey was to Ghana in 2000.
Right. And we came upon a symbol.
The Adinkra symbols, which are the Akan culture.
The Akan culture in Ghana. And it's a collection of different forms that represent language. It isn't a language, but they represent meaning and language. And so this particular form is called Sankofa, and loosely translated, it means if there's something in your past worth remembering, don't be afraid to go back and get it. And we loved that. We absolutely loved that whole idea. And when we got home, we took this heron form that we had been working on, and instead of doing that compounded curve in the front, we just threw the neck back and came out with this form, which we felt was, in its minimalness, conveyed all the elements of glass that we love. It was feminine, it was curvy, and for us it meant going back and thinking about our primordial memory as women and on our place on the planet. So thinking back about, well, there have been many, many great women in history. Unfortunately, we don't know a lot about them for obvious reasons, I would say. And our whole intent is to try to bring back these memories of what was in our personal lives, but also the whole global history of women on the planet. So this is just remembering and forgetting.
Well, and we believe that the majority of indigenous cultures, our ancestry leading forward, had a much more balanced, egalitarian, if not matrilinear, matriarchal culture, which focused more on cooperation, collaboration, which ultimately was a sustainable lifestyle. Our culture's emphasis on consumption, to the point of telling us this is a sustainable economic practice. These kinds of mythologies that we have been fed and absorbed really go against all human common sense. And Sabrina and I have always believed that were women at the decision-making tables at least 50% of the time, we would not find ourselves in the predicament that we're in today. So this wheel for us, the bird is one of the symbols in our vocabulary. We have hands, heads, deity figures, vessel gourds. We didn't even realize through time we had created our own language of symbols, which harkens to indigenous cultures. Pre-written word communication was done visually. So the bird became another one of our symbols. So the whole of this composition for us is like a portal to ancient memory and wisdom for healing and sustainability of all life on the planet. We're all interrelated, as all the great indigenous wise ones knew or know. And our culture has failed to listen over and over and over again.
Jenny and I also like to tell stories with our work. And some of those stories are in our mind, our own mind, stories that we've come up with of just ideas of, well, maybe this represents this, because in prehistory, there's no written word. So I mean, there's a lot of evidence that archaeologists and anthropologists draw from to create their narratives. And so we just decided to be, I don't know how you say it. Anyway, we just
storytellers.
We'll make up our own history.
Right.
Well, we believe, intuition, just a connection to our ancestry. We all share we all have a shared global shared ancestry. And we truly believe that there was a time when the world was, there were cultures that lived in a much more state of pleasantry, shall we say. There was a greater quality of life on the planet. Anthropological studies have shown repeatedly that our ancestors had much more leisure time than we have. And so much of that is driven by this need for economy, for the global economy, which is, manifest in the consume, which anyone can see. There's a limited, finite resources on the planet. So population increase and overconsumption, where in the hell did everybody think that was going to take us?
Exactly right. Just produce, and produce whatever the patriarchy wanted. They were excluding so many voices and
oppressing,
ignoring, where we are,
destroying, not acknowledging.
Even the art history group, they just were not recognizing women who were making artwork, and the erasure of women still continues today. They were erasing the voices of trying to erase some of those working in the earth art movements too. So as you two working in the studio glass movement, I'm so happy we can be talking about what you want to be talking about, which is the climate crisis and where we are.
Right. Yes, where we are. Where we are. So it's sometimes it's so overwhelming, it's almost paralytic. It's, because to wake up and to be conscious means you're consuming something at some point all the time, every day. But something I found helpful when heavy anxiety.
Tell me, yeah.
Is, to be mindful of what we consume on a daily basis. Yeah. If we can save a cup of water every day, and millions of people save a cup of drinking water every day, that's 1 million cups of drinking water every day. So even if we can't alter our behavior dramatically immediately, our awareness of what we consume, are we running water while we brush our teeth, kind of thing, where everybody has access to that kind of mental capacity, and everyone has access to compassion and kindness. I think those are 3 things, mindfulness, compassion, and kindness, that if nothing else, we may not be able to turn things around quickly, but it will improve the quality of life for all of us as we go through the crisis to the best that we can.
Regenerating, I think, is where we are today. We can't go back and make something appear that's missing, but if we help regenerate what's there, I got to tell you, I saw something on Instagram that hit me in a way that it hadn't really ever hit me before. There was a little girl who was drawing different leaves and identifying the different plants. And it said, the kids in America can identify 100 different brand names in a flash, but they were struggling to identify 5 different plants.
Wow.
Sure.
That is impactful.
Yeah.
You're removed. That's in our neighborhood, we have the annual block watch meeting, and the first time I went, I was so amazed by all the children in our neighborhood, because you never see them. They're never outside. And of course I'm from a different generation, so that's all we did was go outside unchaperoned. We were crazy and wild, but you could get away with that stuff in those days, because the fear factor, somebody's going to snatch you off the road, wasn't quite as bad as it is now, but it was still there. But we were just, we were out of doors all the time. And these children that live in our block, I'm like, what do they do all day? Well, I know they're at school for a while, but then, what about after school? So I guess they're just inside on their devices, and they don't identify trees because they're not in trees.
They're not in them. Right. And you two live in West Seattle, which is a gorgeous part of a major metropolitan city with views of the Olympics for miles.
Right. We're
So
very
surprising.
We're also excited to say that we planted 41 trees on our little plot of property.
It's a bit overplanted.
But none of them bear food. We forgot to plant food, but we do have shade in the summer, and all of our trees are infatuated with each other. So they're very cooperative. Trees are kind of a metaphor for the feminine principle of cooperation, collaboration.
Oh, absolutely.
But Jodie, we do live in such a remarkable time in the sense that there are people really advocating for free range kids. I just looked up Lenore Skenazy. I believe she started the free range kid concept. I mean, people think of things, but I know she wrote a book. And also there's so much more coverage of female athletes and women artists. I think maybe the younger generations will be better than this than our generation. But one thing I see is I still have a hard time recalling female names. And I think that's something I would call on all people to do, is to remember their names. So we read about an incredible operatic singer who didn't get her due while she was alive. And now we're talking about her, and I'll turn at somebody at the dinner table and say, there was that woman and she was just awesome. And I can't remember her name. And I think that's education, the way I was educated, that women were always secondary. Our achievements were never in the forefront. They were always, oh, okay, that was on the side.
Well, so, and putting women into a slot, for instance, I just read, and of course I can't remember exactly what country it was in, but there was a archaeological dig and they found a warrior buried with, they assume it was a warrior because they were buried with weapons. And for many, many years, it was just assumed this was a male because it was a warrior, weapons, but they've done DNA now with science, and actually it was a female. So, these roles women have occupied throughout history, but it's the remembering and the acknowledgement that's lacking. So we don't know, because a woman warrior wouldn't fit into the narrative of what a woman should be in our Western world that we occupy. The truth is coming out through science, which is really fabulous.
Fabulous. And I would have given all the popcorn in the world to be sitting on a couch watching that Viola Davis movie that she produced and starred in last year. I'm just COVID brain. I'm just going to forget the name of that movie, but it was about women warrior.
Oh, okay. We didn't see that movie. I am a movie goer too, but I did not see that. So,
then there's still time for my dream to come true.
There is.
There is.
And it all goes back to the climate crisis, because, it is the women who perpetuated human life, for better or for worse. We're here today because of millenniums of females and their bodies and their philosophies and their tenacity and their strength and grace and wisdom that brings us to this point today. And just yesterday, I think we were listening to an interview with Kat Bohannon, who's releasing a book called Eve, How the Female Body Drove 200 Million Years of Human Evolution.
Love it.
She basically articulates everything that so many people are becoming aware of. It's as if we're awakening to what we have forgotten. What we have forgotten is killing us. So, better late than never. So despite the difficult news on a daily basis of what's happening climate-wise and the suffering of every living thing on the planet, there are some really optimistic and positive things. And I think it's important that we all remind ourselves of those as often as possible, so we don't fall into a despair and hopelessness and, oh, whatever, why should I try? It's over. I don't even want to participate.
Yeah. So I wanted to share too on the education. and how we can help educate. I have brought on some own educational meditation practices of my own. And on my altar, I've started collecting the quarters from the US Mint because they started the women's program. And so on the reverse side, they're putting and giving homage to women throughout history. So the very first one that I picked up was the Maya Angelou one.
Oh, nice.
We had the opportunity to see her at a town hall meeting in Seattle, probably 10 years ago now. But yeah, we've always appreciated her philosophy, her writings. She's been an inspiration for everyone, really, who is aware of her.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, you two are such a huge inspiration for me. I've always admired your work for the last 20 years that I've been looking at it. But just to give just to give some context, you two started making artwork when women could just start getting credit cards, 1974, 1975. And you two were just living your creative spirit and making it happen in a time when it was really hard. And you chose the medium of glass, which is pretty much god awfully expensive to begin with. And you have to have a ton of equipment to do. I just commend you for keeping that creative spirit alive every single time you got told no, or every single time you got told you can't do that. You just have done it.
Here's the thing, Jodie. You don't get told no. You just don't get told anything.
Oh, I hope everybody hears that.
That's more, I think that's more the way it works. You're just not part of the conversation. You're not included for whatever reason. And you can't,
because you were secondary. We were always secondary.
But you can't internalize that because it will, crush your spirit or
lead to despair and helplessness.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Which has never helped anyone.
La, la, la.
Right.
Well,
your voice matters. And pardon?
It really helped that we had each other.
Yes.
Because it seemed like we were able to offset each other's moments of despair and helplessness. So if one of us was feeling, left out or overlooked or, exhausted, the other one seemed to be the buoy to keep it going. So, highly advocate for, collaborative lifestyles, much less artwork, truly collaborative, fully supportive to help each other evolve to the best we're supposed to be in this one lifetime we get.
And also there, our timing was good. It doesn't go back quite as far as 75 there for the creative output, but our timing was good. And we were, there were enough women in leading up organizations who gave us hope and encouragement that we're forever grateful for. Alice Rooney, who was director of Pilchuck Glass School for many years. That's how I arrived there, was through Alice. And she was always very encouraging. She was very truthful, which was sometimes painful, but she was honest, and not in a cruel way, but in a positive critique type of way. And there have been other women in positions where they have reached out and lent a rope to climb up on, or so that has to be acknowledged. And then also the wonderful female artists working in glass specifically who came before us, which was always gives you hope in your endeavors. We've never sat around and complained about how unjust are those issues. We've never done that. We just have an idea and we're like, well, why can't we? Why can't we do it? And then we go forward and you do what you can do, and you do it for as long as you can until you decide that you don't want to do it anymore for whatever reasons, and that's also valid. I think people can get burnout or tired of swimming upstream, and that's fine to say, hey, okay, let's take a break here and let's not even think about that. Let's just keep pushing forward and see what happens.
Exactly right. So
if you don't push forward, you don't know where that edge is. So you just, and it's also, I think it's good to not get too deep into the ideas that other people have put out there before you that say you have to stay in this lane, or this is what's expected, or this is what you're going to be able to do because these are your limitations. We all have limitations, and we all have great potential as well. So it's it's in the mind.
Yeah.
You have to have the mindset first and foremost. But for us, I think it was, for me personally, on my end of it, I just love the material of glass. And because I love the way it moves. And it's kind of magic, alchemy, that there's this material that's hot and soft and malleable and works really well with gravity, and then can come out and it's like this hard, strong, almost sometimes brittle substance. So going from this soft flowing to this hard, rigid, but to be able to maintain going from the hot flowing, which is the most beautiful glass will ever be, right? To have that somehow transfer to the cold stillness of glass, have that fluidity transfer over into the cold stage is a goal of ours, I would say. What do you think about that?
Yeah, to maintain the sensuality once it's no longer in its malleable form.
Yeah, so I do love the material. It's and Jenny and I have been working with it for a really long time now, and we still haven't mastered it. It's a skill. So it's like anything, the more you do it, the better you get, and you concentrate on particular forms.
And you've changed your forms. You've done the wheels.
Yes, we have. We've changed our whole, from we call our signature work when we first started collaborating together, to what we're making now. There is a line through it. If you know us and you know our work well, you can see that line. But if you're a novice coming in and you see the signature work and you see, for instance, the Witness series, I don't know that you would know that we're the same people.
We introduced photography. We worked for years to get photography into blown glass.
Yes.
That was an exceptional journey. We spent thousands of dollars on classes and equipment, trial and error as efficiently as possible in the hot shop. We got residencies to do some experimentation. And so as we pursue our work, we are storytellers, poet, feminist storytellers first and foremost. But our compositions have definitely changed, and we're integrating original imagery and text and figuring out delivery venues for how to bring those elements to the public, and how to create compositional works that are engaging and also have some mystery. We're much less should I use the word like didactic about what our work means now that we're older? We invite the viewer to get closer. Some of our newer work requires a little more proximity, and create your own story. There's a lot of emphasis on memory also.
I think that's where I come in on your remembering wheel with that heron form. And it brings me to one of my personal experiences I had last week. I was walking to the store. It was a gray day here in Washington, and a blue heron was flying over me so close that it was blowing my hair back.
Wow. You had a major heron encounter.
Yes.
Enviable.
I mean, I almost had to stop what I was doing and go home and record it, because I was in such awe of this.
Well, yeah, you had a meeting with that heron.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I just found out that the heron is the Seattle bird, or maybe the King County bird, not the state bird, I don't think.
State bird is the goldfinch, but
But
anyway, we're also into
the
birds.
great blue heron is, at least all over the United States, to my knowledge, and possibly around the world. Here's an interesting thought. Do you think when birds migrate, they change language when they cross country borders?
I definitely think they change frequency.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, well, that's really what a cool heron.
It was. I wish I was in Seattle to come see what you guys were up to tomorrow, because I heard you're blowing glass. Are you working on a future project? Is there anything you can?
Well, you're not going to believe this.
We're working on a commission, actually.
For a bird wheel. Are you kidding me? It's really right now. We are working for two excellent, wonderful women, and we're constructing a bird wheel for them. We're creating a bird wheel. And so we go into the shop and we create, a few more birds than we need. And then we call the birds to create the compositions. So we're right in the midst of that project. We're blowing down at Patrick Cahill's Area 253 in Tacoma. It's a wonderfully run shop. He runs a beautiful shop, and we can go in there for 4 hours. It's a private shop. So it's great because, after lunch, we're exhausted anyway, and we can just go home. We don't have to go back in the shop. And we've always accessed either, private or public shops. We've not run our own hot shop because our work requires so much work outside of the hot shop that we would not be able to be efficient with the kind of, gas consumption. But we access public access, and that way we're participating in a community experience. That works really well for the way we work. Other artists are more focused on glass exclusively, so they have different techniques for working too.
Yeah, your inventiveness just astounds me. I love your creativity, and I just want you to know that your voice matters, and I'm looking forward to all your future projects.
Thank you
Thank you so much for being here.